Here at the Pool of Bethesda, or at least the excavations of the Pool of Bethesda,
I'm going to give up my shot at a miracle, and I'm going to help you in. And they take the paralyzed guy, and they throw him into the pools of Bethesda.
What if beneath one of the Bible's most famous pools, scientists uncovered something no one was prepared for? A place called the Pool of Bethesda has a history of miracles. Now, a very strange find has put it at the center of a story that could change everything we thought we knew about Jerusalem's past. Stay with me until the end, because what scientists found under the water will blow your mind and make you question history itself. The Pool of Miracles. In ancient Jerusalem, the Pool of Bethesda was a huge place to store water. During the time of the Second Temple, it was built and then taken down many times. People from all over came to this pool to clean up, get better, and get some water. It was a place where faith and everyday life met. In the past, there were stone steps and small bays where people could get into the water. The area became both a restroom and a holy spot because of this. It was more than just a building because it was in the middle of the city. It was a public place where people could get sick, dream, and promise. The way that value and holiness came together made events possible that people will remember for a long time. It felt like a hospital, a church, and a public area all at the same time. Some people came to this spot to wait for things to get better. As part of the rituals, people took baths and cleaned themselves. Stories about people getting better spread from person to person and brought in more people who were looking for help. The pool was designed to fit big groups of people. Its shallow areas and nearby steps made it feel like there was a planned activity going on instead of just splashing around. Over time, the pool became known as a place where both bodies and minds could get better because people went there over and over to heal. Because of the steady flow of people, water was a strong sign that they could start over. One of the most clear echoes from history is the story of a man who had been paralyzed for 38 years and waited at Bethesda for a chance to be fixed. The man had been sick for a long time, but Jesus healed him when he got there. The Christians saw the pool as the site of a real miracle after this event. The 38-year part of the story made it seem more like a real event than a story. It gave the pain a weight that people could understand. Christians and people who came after them thought about the pool and how important it was based on how it healed people. The miracle made a water cistern that worked into a live sign that the person was getting better. Over the past few hundred years, some experts have been wondering if the Pool of Bethesda was real or just a dramatic story. Some people thought that the people who wrote the Gospels might have changed the events after the fact, changing facts about the world to fit more religious lessons than strict geography. In the late 1800s, archaeologists found stone remains and stepped bays exactly where the ancient texts said they were. This proved that the plan was correct. This changed the point of view. There were a lot of people who didn't believe until that proof matched what was written. It showed that stories had a real physical base. The answer not only changed the form of the questions, but it also didn't answer them. Archaeologists digging deeper uncovered layers of history no one expected, proving Bethesda's story is far older than Scripture alone. Layers of civilization. The Pool of Bethesda is made up of more than one building. As if they were layers on top of each other, they tell a big story. When archaeologists took down the Roman buildings that could be seen, they found the outline of Jewish holy baths that people used during the time of the Second Temple. Bathing in these tubs, which were called mikvaot, showed that pools had been used for a lot longer than Roman builders thought. Each layer had the marks of a different group of people who used the area in their own special way. In what looked like one pool, there was a live record of Jerusalem's long past. It was possible that some of the bricks that were found under the mikvaot were from the time of the First Temple. Things from a long time ago show that the area was important before the Romans, and even before Jewish ways of life became the way they are today. One that was well planned and built to do more than just hold water could be seen in the floors and walls. So, people thought that the water in Bethesda was holy to a group of people whose names and ways of life have been forgotten. The pool wasn't made by just one group because it was found and used by many. Bethesda has been around for a long time, so it is not where one tradition began. Instead, it's where a lot of them met. It's possible that the pool's reputation for healing wasn't based on just one case. Over the past few hundred years, people have used it to clean, heal, and get better. As new kings or religions took over, the old ones were built on top of and changed into something like water. Even after the people had changed, the stones still held tales. Because of this, it turned into one of the most important spots in Jerusalem. A new idea is that the layers might help us understand why the biblical wonder has stuck with us so much. A man was healed by water that had been thought to be holy for hundreds of years. It must have felt like just another miracle in a long queue. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a series of changes and healing. If this helps, you might see how the gospel writer could write about such a big event without making people question whether it was true. It was even more surprising that the author didn't have to talk about the past. In the last few decades, ground-penetrating radar and digital scans have made it possible for researchers to see things that they previously couldn't see. The tools showed that the surface of the pool had hidden passages, rooms, and holes. Long rooms that seemed to lead to important parts of the city, and small holes that looked like old cisterns were also present. A tube that looked like it led to the Temple Mount made people wonder what it was used for before. This discovery linked Bethesda to more than just healing in the area. It may also have something to do with bigger Jewish religious practices. These caves changed the way we thought about building and privacy in Jerusalem in the past. If water had been sent to the temple, it could have been used to clean the priests or even make sacrifices. Some people thought that the hidden tubes made the pool feel even more mysterious by letting water move in ways that no one could see. These tubes also showed that the planning went much further than what was needed in towns. Bethesda might not have been a single open-air pond, but rather a part of a larger system that connected water to holiness. It's also possible that the caves were used for secret events that only a few people knew about. A lot of the time, people linked underground areas with small groups, secret societies, and customs. If the pool was connected to these hidden spots, it could have been used for both public healing and private events. Because it was two things at once, Bethesda was more important than a regular public bath. That place turned into a place where water flowed day and night. These scientific tools helped me understand the Bible better. In the stories in John's Gospel, the water was moving, and forces that couldn't be seen were at work below the surface. As the researchers did their scans, they found that the unknown forces might not just be supernatural, but also linked to rooms and tunnels that were built by people. It was now possible to put into stone what had been promised in trust. Bethesda took on new meaning for both Christians and people who don't believe in God when old texts and new science came together. They changed many places in Jerusalem to fit their own faith and gods when they were in charge. There was proof at Bethesda that healing groups with ties to Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine, may have been around before or at the same time as Jewish customs. Like the Greeks and Romans did, archaeologists found gifts and poems that were meant for Asclepius. This proved that Bethesda's water was liked by people of all faiths and countries. A lot of people from different faiths came to worship at the pool because it was thought to heal. What scientists just found. Working together, they found a locked room under the Pool of Bethesda that no one thought they would find. The room was sealed off with big rocks and packed dirt, which kept whatever was inside safe for thousands of years. When archaeologists opened it, they saw things inside that had never been seen before at the site. These were not the normal Roman or Second Temple tools. Pieces of small plates with symbols that didn't look like they came from Hebrew, Greek, or Latin were found. The shock hit right away. These marks pointed to a layer of culture that went beyond the well-known tales of Jerusalem. The forms and strokes on those tablet pieces were different from what was usually written in the city, and experts noticed patterns that looked older and simpler than later scripts. Early research suggested a link to people who lived before the Israelites, possibly with Canaanite beliefs that were around long before the biblical kingdoms. If that reading is correct, it moves some events that were written in Jerusalem hundreds of years earlier than they should have been. This makes historians rethink who first used this land. Because of these tablets, the dig went from being a local find to a problem that affected people across the country and even into neighboring regions. People started to wonder if the layers we thought were newer were actually built on grounds that were much older. someone came up with a new idea that these tablets might not just be notes. They could be a kind of healing record or ritual guide. People who worked as priests or healers at the spot may have written names, offerings, types of illness, or short ritual formulas on the stones. If it's true, the chamber would be like a library of healing knowledge. It would show that organized care and rituals came together long before the common faith systems. Along with a shrine, this makes Bethesda into a classroom. It was here that beliefs and techniques were written down and passed down. The plot gives the pool a lot more meaning for viewers. It's no longer just a background for a miracle. The chamber was made with a level of accuracy that was different from most stonework in Jerusalem. The stones fit together tightly and have clean edges. Some joints were cut using cutting methods that aren't common in nearby ruins. This made the room feel like it was purposely shut off and safe. Inside, niches and shelves held small ritual vessels, flattened bowls, and clay pieces that were carefully grouped together instead of being thrown around. Animal bones were also found, and they were often found near certain bowls. This suggests that they were controlled gifts rather than trash or casual meals. A piece of cut stone that stood like a small altar showed signs of having been used a lot and put there with care. The arrangement inside showed that it was a process that was done there over and over again. There was residue on the vessels that looked like burned fat, plant resins, and herbal mixtures. This made me think of rites that mixed smoke, scents, and topical treatments. The bones had marks on them that looked like they were butchered in a way that was more like a ceremony than a normal way of killing animals, which supports the idea of structured ceremonies. The things showed a healing shrine where treatments and gifts were part of a process that happened over and over again. The accuracy of the room makes it feel less like a one-time hideout and more like a professional medical facility. There are now experts who think this area was used as a private treatment center long before the pool was associated with Jews or Christians. It might have been the workshop of a certain type of healer who kept ritual steps, recipes, and gifts in a safe place. Later builders covered the room and kept it in good shape instead of destroying it because they wanted to keep it secret and powerful. If the pool were later put on top of this spot, the healing power of the room below it would already be stronger. Because of this, the well-known miracle story has a deeper, older ground to stand on. When radiocarbon dating showed that some unearthed materials were over 3,000 years old, it turned guesses into claims that could be measured. This timeline puts some parts of the room in the Bronze Age or Early Iron Age. This is a very long time ago, before the Second Temple and the Roman buildings that were known to be at Bethesda. Researchers think that holy practices connected to water may have started a lot earlier than they thought because of the deep date. The site no longer looked like a feature from a single age, but like a center for long-running traditions. For historians, these numbers meant that they had to rewrite the pool's history in a big way. This earlier date brings up a clear question about the well-known story of Jesus' healing in John 5. Did the miracle happen in a place that had been known for healing for generations? If the waters had a long history of healings and ceremonies, then one big healing would have fit into a pattern that people already trusted. Then, the story in the gospel would show not only a moment of faith, but also a link in a chain of shared hope. In this new light, the miracle is seen as a part of a much bigger story, not a single event. For viewers, this idea makes the pool less of a one-time stage and more of a focus on how people have long used water to heal. Some experts say that the Pool of Bethesda was built on top of this older sacred room on purpose so that later cultures could use its power without causing a public uproar. It was a known technique for new regimes to claim legitimacy by reusing holy places in new ways while preserving what came before. If Bethesda did things that way, different groups could use the site's water and memory to connect with the same spiritual force. In this way, a layered sacred landscape is made, where meanings build up instead of going away. From myth to undeniable evidence, Bethesda now forces scholars and believers alike to rethink everything about ancient Jerusalem's timeline, from myth to reality. People thought of the Pool of Bethesda as just a story from the Bible for a long time. Many scholars thought it was just a figure of speech and not real history, saying that the story in John's Gospel had nothing to do with a real place. Explorations, on the other hand, totally changed the story by making the pool's foundations very clear. Archaeology found structures that matched what was described in the Bible, which proved that the place was real. Before, people thought this was just a story, but now it's been proven by stone and soil, not just words. The change isn't just meant to prove the Bible right, it's also meant to help us learn more about how people lived in the past. Carbon dates and stratigraphy show that the building happened in more than one stage, connecting different times. It turns out that the pool wasn't just a random building, it was part of a bigger network of holy places in Jerusalem. Archaeologists also found tools and pots that connected the pool to activity in the city as a whole. In other words, this shows that Bethesda wasn't a separate wonder spot, but was part of city life. A lot of different cultures thought the pool was holy, which makes the story even more interesting. It may have been a sign of fertility and natural rebirth for the Canaanites. Later, Jewish priests changed the waters so they could be used in rituals to clean people, linking them to the rules of holiness. On top of that, Roman forces added devotions to Asclepius, the god of healing. Later, Christians remembered it as the place where Jesus did his feet, connecting their faith to a place that had already been holy for hundreds of years. Archaeological evidence shows that customs in this area rarely ended. Instead, they built on top of each other. Ritual baths were found next to pagan writings, which suggests that the two were used together rather than interchangeably. By mixing these things together, we can see that water had a meaning that went beyond religion. People from all over the world came to the pool with one goal in mind: to get better. In this way, Bethesda wasn't just a place for one religion, it was more of a spiritual hub. Even now, Bethesda's waters whisper secrets, energies, artifacts, and untold stories that may yet change the world's view of faith, traces of the past. A long queue of people eager for change formed at Bethesda. Farmer, priest, soldier, mother, and child were among them. Over the years, people have left behind small things like broken bowls, shoes, and coins. Now, archaeologists can read these like book pages. These things make the lives of nameless people seem like real life, so the pool doesn't feel like a single event, but like a long story about people. Wants and deep desires were both in the water. Hope and common life came together there. Because so many people came to see it, Bethesda turned into a live memory made of rock and dirt. A lot of care and practice have been going on for hundreds of years, so it's not just a few desperate people acting out of the blue. There are cuts in the animal bones and wear on the steps that show how many times they were used. People who used the pool over and over didn't really get rid of the past. They just added their own dreams to it. Traditions were stacked on top of each other to make a continuous thread that linked very different cultures. Over time, people have tried to fix their bodies and calm their fears in different ways. The pool is a unique place to see these changes. People who visit still often talk about how strange the place feels. It has a quiet heaviness that makes things move and talk more slowly. Some people say they feel calm or tingly in ways they can't explain. A few small tests have also found some strange things in the ground near the stones. That could be the power of hope, or it could be something natural like the flow of air, mineral traces, or bacteria in the water. Our minds and bodies are both a part of the mystery that helps us figure out why people keep coming back. For Bethesda not to fall apart like many other old towns, thoughts and facts work together. Instead of just seeing the pool as a shrine, it can be good to think of it as a living lab. We can now look at microbes, mineral makeup, airflow, and tiny particles to figure out how people feel when they visit. These studies that don't bother people could show how natural things affect how people feel in holy places, which would link what people say they feel with what science says. We would like to know if the peace is partly caused by the cool, still air or the smells that come from old stones. Not having that there wouldn't change how holy the place is. If you know how something works, it makes it more strange, not less. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.